Hello and welcome to my presentation about my research titled Size Doesn't Matter, How Company X Can Retain Employees. So first up, let's go through the outlines for the presentation. The first point is about the company itself, the industry partner, and then we go through the problem they are facing and what are the aims of the research, the literature review or what we have found so far regarding the problem, and the research design, how we're going to approach the issues, and then ethical consideration. First off, about the industry partner. So the company chosen for this research here addresses Company X, operates in the logistics industry with one branch in Ho Chi Minh City. The company has about 40 employees, and the revenue for last year is about 2.5 Australian dollars after using the current date conversion rate. And I myself is a former employee, however, I don't have any tie to the company anymore. So these factors point toward Company X being an SMEs, and of course they have to face unique challenges as we have found in this research because of them being an SME. As the research problem of what they are facing. So there are many problems they are facing, but this research scope will be regarding employee retention. So Company X has been facing high employee turnover but during 2019 as an example, they have lost staff members in the sales team, the drivers for the vehicles, and the manager and planner for the vehicles fleet, especially a very important position, has left the company during 1 year. And why is high turnover important in this case? It is important because high turnover affects productivity and performance. So the company loses experienced and well-trained staff, and when they recruit new people, they have to begin the training process again and give them time before new employees can get up to speed and doing what they're doing. And of course, these also affect the ability for the company to grow and diversify the company into other services. This is also essential because the industry in the country is predicted to have strong growth in the near future. And with that problem, what are our aims? So the aim is to identify factors that lead to high employee turnover and also provide a solution to enhance retention, which is related to the problem they are facing. And now let's go through what we have found in the literature regarding the issues. So the literature review will use turnover intention as a proxy and a measurement for retention, because if employees wanting to leave, then more likely they will leave the company. And the three factors in focus for literature review are training and development, remuneration, and career growth. Of many, these three were chosen because they are the most applicable to Company X. So first off, talk about the training and development. Of course, the literature has pointed out that majority of training activities enhance greater employee loyalty to the business and also negatively linked with losing a member of staff to competitor, which is retention, as pointed out by this author. The author also notes that satisfactory training can enhance work engagement and reduce turnover intention. So here we see both a direct and indirect relationship between training and development towards employees' turnover intention. Indirect through work engagement, and of course, however, training is usually informal, short-term, and in-house for SME, as pointed out by these authors, which is also true for Company X. So the reason is most likely they don't have the resources and they don't think a formal training program is cost effective, and then the benefit bring does not justify the cost. And of course, during my time there, the company most likely relied on current staff or experienced staff, train the new staff, or they bring them along for the works and instruction and learn on the job, which is less than satisfactory of a training and development scheme. And the second factor is remuneration. And of course, salaries is one of the biggest determinant for turnover decision, as pointed by this author, because employees justifiably requires fair and equitable pay that is appropriate to their contribution, their effort, and their skills. Satisfactory pay, and in this case especially pay level, is negatively correlated with turnover intention and positively correlated with effective commitment, as pointed by this author. And effective commitment is also negatively correlated with turnover intention. So here once again we see a direct and indirect relationship between remuneration and turnover intention, with indirect relationship through effective commitment. And however, SMEs lack the financial resources to retain talented staff. This again is applicable to Company X. They don't have enough financial resources to offer more attractive salaries as compared to bigger companies, and they cannot bring as much benefit to the employees, which is also an issue. The third factors is career growth. So of course, as pointed out by these authors, there exists a negative relationship between career growth and turnover intention. And career growth, once again, can affect turnover intention either directly or indirectly through occupational commitment. So we see these direct and indirect relationship in all of the three factors. So it is a rather broad spectrum. And however, in the case of Company X, employees don't have much room for growth. This is because they are an SMEs and they can only offer a limited range of services, and currently they don't have the capacity to expand. So that's why employees who are doing a task, who are in charge of one services, will most likely continue to do that one services without ever having the chance to actually diversify their skill set. And here's the conceptual map with all the construct and concept that we have discussed during the literature review, with a green arrow indicates a positive correlation and a red arrow indicates negative correlation. And with that said, what are the research questions? So there are two research questions. The first one is, what are the factors that impact on the retention of staff in Company X? So this question aims to answer why the issue is happening, to understand and identify the root cause. And after we've done that, the second question comes in. So what are the strategies that Company X can implement to retain staff? This question aims to answer how we are going to address this issue and how we're going to make the situation better. So the answers to these two questions will provide us with an insight on why the issue is happening and how we can solve it. Next part is research design. So the chosen research method is qualitative. And why is this chosen? Because the nature of the study and also the nature of the research question is more exploratory. We are aiming to identify a cause and the solution. And of course, the research goal is to gain a more in-depth understanding of the issues with consideration to different perspectives from participants and other contexts, so such as social context, environmental, and economics. Hence, this research has characteristics of a qualitative studies, as discussed by these authors. Furthermore, factors and that affect employee retention and turnover intention has been comprehensively studied and empirically tested by multiple studies and authors. And this research does not aim to capture a trend, and nor does it try to test a relationship or establishing if there is a relationship exists between the factors and employee turnover. This research aims to use the current knowledge and apply it to Company X. Another point is sample size. So due to the nature of the company and the and how the sample will be chosen. The sample size in this research is more consistent with that of a qualitative study rather than a quantitative study, which require bigger sample size as discussed by this author. And now we talk about the data. So data will be gathered from a top executive in company X. Of course, their contact details will be obtained from my own contact within the company. I will contact them through emails and Skype calls or other internet services. Due to our physical location, face-to-face meetings are not feasible, so this is why these methods were chosen. And the sample size will be one, the executive mentioned above. So to justify this sample size, there are multiple reasons. First one is that this executive has been with the company since day one, and they, more than anyone else, have been with the company through all situations and have a deeper understanding of the business as well as its limitation. Another factor is that this executive is also plays the role of an HR manager, so they actually have a close and personal relationship with the staff, especially in the case of an SME where there are not much staff members to begin with. So they do understand the employees well, even former employees, and they said that they have even discussed with former employees why they left the company in the first place. So they can be considered as a reliable source on why employees leave. And of course, another small factors is that due to the nature of the work done by the company, half of the staff is not in the office during the day-to-day operation, so gathering a large interest group will be challenging. So the sampling method and the technique chosen for this research are consistent with non-probability sampling method and judgment sampling as discussed by the author. The non-probability sampling comes from the nature of the study being qualitative, so that's why we're choosing non-probability, and just judgment sampling was chosen because I believe the top executive is a very reliable source of information. They might not represent the population technically, but they have enough knowledge on it so that they can represent in another sense the population. That's why judgment sampling was chosen. And to gather data, the research will utilize semi-structured and unstructured interviews. So why were these chosen? Most of all, first of all, I want both the interviewer and interviewees has a high degree of freedom in engaging in conversation, so that why we do have a general agenda on what we want to achieve. The freedom to follow up with questions and answers, especially with a knowledgeable individual like the top executive, can provide deeper insight or even new insight on related matters that I have not considered, that the research can benefit from and can study from. So that's why these structure of interviews were chosen. And the research tools. So to conduct the interview, a questionnaire will be developed with questions based on the current employee retention issues. At the current stage, it will focus a lot on the 3 factors that lead to the issues, and some characteristics that is desirable for the questions. It should be open-ended. It should ignite a conversation, not a simple question and answer session. It should minimize personal opinion where appropriate. This is mostly for appraising reviewing the current system that are in place to reduce bias. It should approach each factor from multiple angles, so to gain a more complete picture on what the company are doing and why they are doing it, and how they think it is effective. And it should minimize the need to mention any particular individual. two major ethical considerations are confidentiality and consent. So of course, consent is, but participants have to give express consent through verbal or writing before any research can be conducted. And confidentiality, then any data and personal information will not be revealed to anyone else except for the researcher. And of course, due to the physical location and the devices holding the data being password protected, the chance of any other parties gaining access to the data unauthorized is extremely limited. And here the questionnaire for interviews, and this is the reference list for the presentation. And that concludes my presentation on my research. Thank you for your patience and attention.